The entire situation with Jim Harbaugh that's currently going on and has been going on for years now is compelling to say the least. In his first 7 years as the head coach of Michigan, 4 of those years, let me repeat, 4 of them, he's won 10 or more games. So when you hear that, and for any other coach, you'd probably say, okay, he's over-exceeded or at least met the expectations. But not in this case. A lot of Michigan fans, many analysts, and people, including myself, would say that Jim Harbaugh has slightly underperformed at Michigan. When you look back and realize all the hype that was surrounding him when he was entering Michigan, it makes more sense. Is Harbaugh a good coach? Yes. Is he a great coach? No. And that's the problem. At Michigan, he hasn't been a great coach. Don't worry, we'll touch on that in just a second, but first, I want to bring this up. I wouldn't even say you got to be a Michigan fan to be hearing the rumors currently going on. A lot of people are saying he's going to take a job in the NFL and he's going to leave Michigan. You can't even label it as crazy. It makes a lot of sense considering a lot of NFL head coaches have recently got fired and there's a ton of new job openings. I actually have a couple of sources I've talked to and some inside information on Jim Harbaugh about if he's going to return to Michigan, and let's just say you're going to want to stick it out. Okay. Here's my question. If I'm Jim Harbaugh and I'm trying to put myself in his shoes and position, why in the heck would I come back? There's really nothing left for him at Michigan. They're more than likely not going to compete for a national championship. This year was as good as it's going to get. Outside of this year, he's been getting literally curb stomped by Ohio State. And I know what you're sitting there thinking or saying to yourself, yo Matt, what are you talking about? They had a good year. And I agree with you 100%. They did have a good year. But this is the pinnacle. It's not going to get much better. Yes, of course, they can compete in the Big Ten and win those championships. But when you're talking about beating Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, USC on a regular basis, I don't see that happening. And here's why I say that. I'm not too involved with the Michigan athletic department, but I don't know what's going on with them. They need to get it together. The teams I just listed, USC, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, the cream of the crop, they all have an NIL program where they're recruiting these players. Michigan doesn't really have that going. For my Michigan fans, you're not going to want to hear this, but I got to tell you the cold hard truth. This year on the current Michigan team, they only had 3 5-star recruits. Alabama and Georgia, both of them had over 15 to 20. That right there is really the only difference with them, and also their biggest rival, Ohio State. They have something like 17 5-star recruits on their team last year. Well, Matt, that doesn't matter. 5-star recruits don't matter. We beat Ohio State this year. I understand that. Here's what I'm trying to say. Even a Michigan fan will tell you right now, you don't expect to beat Ohio State every single year, whereas for Ohio State, they expect to beat Michigan every single year. That's the difference in the programs. It's not even on Jim Harbaugh. It's flat out almost impossible to compete with these blue bloods of college football when you don't have as many 5-star recruits. So Matt, what are you trying to say? How do I put this nicely? Jim Harbaugh has already accomplished everything he can at Michigan. There's almost no point to continue to be there. And whoa, calm down. I'm not saying he should leave the program. If he wants to stick it out and coach and maybe possibly win a championship, all power to him. I'm just saying the facts and the obvious. This could all change within 2, 3, 4 years, but currently as to when I'm speaking, Michigan's football team doesn't have the guys to compete with the powerhouses in the country. And for that reason right there, that is why you're seeing all these rumors about him going to the NFL. Most people feel like he's accomplished everything he can at Michigan, so it's almost like, okay, what's next? And let's not forget to throw in there, I think a lot of people forget to mention when talking about Jim Harbaugh, is he's almost arguably a better NFL coach than a college coach. His winning percentage in the NFL is sitting at a very impressive 69.5, almost 70, and if he retired and never went back, that'd be top 5 all time. He's definitely a proven NFL coach, and I think that's why you see all these teams going after him. Let's throw it back to college and why I think it's really a strange and curious case of Jim Harbaugh. In the most recent year, this current year, 2021, he went 12-2. extremely impressive. And the year before, he went 2-4. I understand it was a COVID year, but everybody was dealing with it, so I can't give you that excuse. Those 2 seasons back to back really gives you a perspective of how his coaching career has been at Michigan. It all goes back to the hype surrounding his name when he was coming into Michigan. How people evaluate you in life, no matter what you do, is based off of their expectations before you do something. For example, I'll put it in a better perspective. If I see a guy who's shooting basketball and he's 7 foot tall, obviously I think we can all agree we would expect him to be able to dunk. So if I look at that guy and I'm like, hey man, can you show me a dunk? He tries to dunk it and he misses, I'm going to be disappointed because I expected him to. On the other hand, if I see a guy who's 5'7" shooting basketball, and just if I was being curious, I say, hey man, can you dunk? And I'm not expecting him to, right? He goes up there and he does a windmill. I would be shocked because me, you, everyone else, we didn't expect that. That's kind of what's happened with Jim Harbaugh. Going into Michigan, we expected him to dunk, and he hasn't really done that dunk we've all been waiting for. Let's take a look at something else I found really intriguing. The more I looked into it, I was like, holy crap, Alabama and Michigan before Saban and Harbaugh got there, they were almost a similar program. Nick Saban got to Alabama in the year of 2007. Let's take a look at the 7 years prior to him getting there. Starting in 2000, they went 3-8, 7-5, 10-3, 4-9, 6-6, 10-2, and 6-7. As you can see from those numbers, not too good. Here and there you had a good season, but for the vast majority, it was average or even below average. After those seasons, when Saban got there, they've went 7-6, 12-2, 14-0, 10-3, 12-1, 13-1, and you get the point. Ever since he's got there, they've always won 12 or 13 games. On the flip side for Michigan, I found it ironic they was in a similar situation. Jim Harbaugh got there in 2015, so let's look at the 7 years prior to him getting there. Starting with 2008, they went 3-9, 5-7, 7-6, 11-2, 8-5, 7-6, and 5-7. I think we can all agree that's pretty similar to the 7 years prior to Nick Saban getting to Alabama. You had 1 to 2 good years here and there, but for the vast majority, it was average or below average. Taking a look at the years when Harbaugh's got there ever since 2015, they've gone 10-3, 10-3, 8-5, 10-3, 9-4, 2-4, and 12-2. When you look at the cold hard facts, he's definitely improved this program and made them more respectable in the past 7 to 8 years compared to the years prior. But here's his biggest problem, and not just his problem, but every new head coach who has any expectations whatsoever. Is it fair? No. Is it right? No. Should it be this way? No. But every new head coach will be compared to Nick Saban at Alabama until he retires. Why is that, you may ask? Because he is the gold standard. He's shown you it shouldn't take any longer than 3 to 4 years to start winning championships. And what people really need to understand and realize that Nick Saban, what he's done with Alabama, it isn't normal. It is beyond legendary and mind-blowing for me. Just go back and look at the stats. A lot of people tend to forget because of Alabama's dominance over the past 15 years that this program, and yes, I'm talking about Alabama, they were very bad for a long time. Why does Nick Saban get worshipped like he's a Greek god around the state of Alabama? Because people from that state understand and realize what he's done and how bad it was before he got there. I'm not going to sit up here and break down Alabama's teams from 1990s to 2010, but I'll just leave you with this. Pretty much from 1995 to 2006, Alabama was a below average football team, and they was almost a laughingstock. Nobody respected them, nobody feared them, and whenever you heard you had to play Alabama that week, a lot of people marked that down and checked it off as a free win. Give or take, there was a couple of 10-win seasons here and there, but that was the best of the best. Kind of like what we're seeing with Jim Harbaugh recently. Yo, Matt, why are you talking about Alabama's dominance? We're supposed to be talking about Jim Harbaugh. Well, I believe it goes hand in hand together. That's why I brought it up. I'm not letting y'all forget, and I've said it before on this channel, whenever Harbaugh got hired at Michigan, I remember it like it was yesterday. You had people proclaiming and saying he was going to be the next Nick Saban of basically the Big Ten. I'll stop you right there. Number one, Jim Harbaugh couldn't dream of being good as Nick Saban. And number two, you don't compare anybody to Nick Saban. Am I throwing shots at Harbaugh? You could say that. Here's my biggest problem. Harbaugh isn't even close to being on the level of Nick Saban because he can barely beat his rivals. If you take away 2021 2021, I believe Michigan was on something like a 6 or 7 game losing streak to Ohio State. And they still couldn't beat Michigan State this year, and Michigan State was an average football team. Well, Matt, they was ranked. That's because they're playing in the sorry Big Ten. You saw what a good football team Ohio State can do to a Michigan State. Michigan State was terrible, and you still managed to find a way to lose to them when really you had better players and you outperformed them. Let this sink in with you. Jim Harbaugh has been at Michigan for 7 years now and only has one Big Ten championship to show for it. I'm not going to say too much about that. I'll let you do what you want with that information. Yo, Matt, you're being kind of harsh on Jim Harbaugh. And I am, because I know he can be a great coach. He just hasn't really shown it. And why it's so curious and a controversial topic, is it really his fault or Michigan's athletic department's fault for not allowing them to get the recruits they really should be? It's a compelling argument because we have seen Jim Harbaugh. He went 12-1 at Stanford. He's done great in the NFL. So why has he been there at Michigan 7 years and has no championships to show for it? I really think it'd be delusional to say Jim Harbaugh can't be a great coach. He can be. He just hasn't shown it at Michigan. And that's why this argument is so strange, at least in my opinion, because I want you to think about this. Let's say Jim Harbaugh was a coach of Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida, any team in the SEC where he would be getting these 4- and 5-star recruits, and I can almost guarantee you that. I really think we'd be talking about a different story here. I personally believe if Jim Harbaugh was the head coach of Florida, Georgia, any team in the SEC, LSU, any team like that, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, I don't expect it to happen, but if he was the coach, I think he'd see way more success than he would in the Big Ten. Jim Harbaugh is supposed to be this hometown hero that's going to return Michigan to their glory days, and he hasn't done it. But here's the real question. Is there even a possibility for him to do it in the first place? I simply don't know the answer to that question. However, I'm going to tell you one thing right now. Next year and the year after will tell us a lot. It's going to tell us if maybe this was a fluke year and it's not going to happen again, or maybe he's here to stay. Last but not least, before we end off this video, I'm going to let you know now, I can't tell you my sources, but I have a couple that have almost not confirmed it, but there's a pretty high chance that Jim Harbaugh returns to Michigan. Well, Matt, how do you know that? My sources have told me that Jim Harbaugh is currently already on the road and he's been flying around the country to visit recruits. If he didn't plan on going back to Michigan, I don't think he'd be doing that. And if you want some cold hard proof to back it up, not just my sources telling me, I'll offer you this. On the Sports 610 radio cast, here's what Harbaugh said. Just got to enjoy these days with the family because we hit the road for recruiting in a couple of days, and it's the last time to see the family. If I had to give you an estimate, I'm not going to be for sure about it because we really don't know what's going to happen when it's all said and done. I think I'd say there's probably a 90 to 95% chance he returns to Michigan. The only other factor people are bringing up is money. And here's what I'm going to tell you right now if you're a Michigan fan. You shouldn't worry about that, because if Jim Harbaugh was willing to take a huge pay cut to stay at Michigan in the first place, money really isn't on his mind. He also said before the college football playoff that he would do this job for free if he had to. He's at a point in his life where he's made so much money, it doesn't even matter to him, so that is a good sign. I honestly think, and you can see it in the way he talks and the way he coaches, I think he loves his job at Michigan. My biggest argument to that, I've said it this entire video, I simply don't know if Michigan, not Jim Harbaugh, but Michigan as a program can get the recruits and get the guys to even compete with the best of the best. I think Jim Harbaugh as a coach, he can compete with the best of the best. But if you don't have the players, it makes it 10 times harder. There's a lot to it, and it's definitely interesting. Let me know your thoughts down below. But with all that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. If you're new to the channel, what are you doing? Join the family, hit that subscribe button, and leave a like for more. And as always, let's be great. I'm out, y'all. Peace.